Matt Sager with some new comic book news. This Tuesday, May 19, 2020. New comics are in short supply these days, but DC somehow manages to soldier on in spite of this pandemic, problems with printers and distributors. They've had this digital first initiative for several weeks now, and they just dropped a surprise new title today. It's available right now from DC, Comixology, Amazon, whichever is your preferred digital comics platform of choice. You can pick up the new series Deceased Hope at World's End. Chapter 1's out today. It's going to be a 14-chapter limited series written by Tom Taylor. It takes place in the span of time jump just before Deceased number 5. So before the end of all things in the DC universe. It's always cool to have a nice surprise comic release. I'm a fan of Deceased, and like Walking Dead, it's kind of creepy and kind of more relevant than it ought to be right now. Any comic about the end of the world, adapting to the unthinkable, now's a really good time to enjoy that kind of work because you get to see how the characters you enjoy and admire soldier through times much tougher, let's be honest, than what we're living through right now. This pandemic is scary, it's disruptive, it's upsetting, and for some of us, it's tragic. But comics are about escapism, and let's be honest, the world is not going to end anytime soon. Knock on wood. So check that out. I haven't read it yet, but I will, and I'll review it. Deceased Hope at World's End, number 1, out today. Also, if you're looking for some entertainment today, there's another Mr. Plinkett video out. I'll link to it in the description. It is, for me, long-awaited, a bit bittersweet, because this was a show I really wanted to enjoy, just like I wanted to enjoy every Star Wars installment that Mr. Plinkett ended up making fun for me by savaging it. I actually don't go into films, games, or anything like it with some sort of bias or get any kind of glee from being disappointed. There is a disturbingly broad section of the internet that thrives and seemingly exists just to shit all over Star Wars, games, TV, comics for some perceived agenda. It's their bread and butter, and that's not who I am. Not personally and not as a business model. And I'm a massive fan of the character of Picard and a huge fan of Patrick Stewart. I actually was lucky enough to see him and Ian McKellen on Broadway about a year and a half ago in Waiting for Godot. I had very high hopes for this series. I'm a massive fan as well of Michael Chabon, a key creative figure behind Picard, but Picard was not enjoyable for me. I sat through all 10 episodes, not as punishment, but for fear that I was maybe missing something. That, are my friends enjoying this? Have I soured on entertainment? Has the pandemic turned me into a crank? Am I becoming a snob because of how much of this type of entertainment I've consumed? Thankfully, Mr. Plinkett, he's such an influencer and such a commiserator that whenever something comes along that I find really terrible, it's usually not long before he produces a video thesis breaking down exactly what was so terrible about it, why it disappointed so badly, why it's basically irredeemable, and how shockingly bad it is from start to finish. Act by act, story beat by story beat, decision by decision. And, he does it with a lot of humor. Mr. Plinkett is the best. Do check out that video. I'll link to it in the description, as I said. Also, I don't mean to keep coming out and shilling for Humble Bundle. That's not something I'm trying to do. Although it is a great service, a way for you to purchase massive amounts of entertainment in the form of games, books, comics, etc. at insanely low prices, free of digital rights management, and all benefiting charity. So, to be honest, I think when possible, I will call attention to good Humble Bundles, especially when they're ones that I purchase, that I look at and go, wow, this is a great deal. These are books I really want. I can get hundreds of dollars worth of books for anywhere between $15 and $20. In the case of the one I'm going to talk about today, it's $15 for a collection of great comics that you would otherwise need to spend $177 to purchase. And even in so doing, you'd be subject to DRM, buying them through something like Comixology. This is just a spectacular deal from a creator I'm a huge fan of, a very popular creator, the great Joe Hill, the man behind Lock and Key, The Cape, Road Rage. He's, of course, the creator of AMC's NOS4A2. He's a spectacular creator, and there's a Joe Hill Lock and Key Humble Bundle going on right now. I will link to this as well. And like most of these Humble Bundles, it comes in tiers. So even if you just spend $1, you can get a massive amount of comics. For $1 or more, you get Lock and Key Volumes 1 and 2, Dying is Easy, number 1, Joe Hill's The Cape, the first Cape collection, and Shadow Show, Stories in Celebration of Ray Bradbury, which features Joe Hill as well as Jason Ciaramella, also Neil Gaiman, and many more. For $8 or more, you get Lock and Keys Volume 3 and 4, Dying is Easy number 2, another Cape collection, Joe Hill's The Cape, 1969, Tales from the Dark Side, Joe Hill's Thumbprint, and the aforementioned Road Rage. $15 or more. This is the top tier, which gets you all the books in the bundle. Lock and Key Volumes 5 and 6, Clockworks and Alpha and Omega, Lock and Key Dog Days, Lock and Key Heaven and Earth, Lock and Key Small World, and Dying is Easy number 3, Joe Hill's The Cape Fallen, and The Wraith, Welcome to Christmas Land. Christmas Land, of course, the terrifying world introduced in NOS4A 2. So this takes place in the NOS4A 2 universe. I haven't made my way through all these comics yet, but I did purchase them. I watch Humble Bundle on a pretty regular basis because there's amazing deals like this up all the time. And if you go to humblebundle.com, you'll see there's a ton of other great deals up available right now as well. Lots of game deals, several book deals on subjects ranging from role-playing games, science fiction and fantasy, to quite a bit of science and career-oriented stuff like learning how to program. There's an O'Reilly bundle up right now, a STEM book bundle up, music software bundle, learning game coding bundle. So do check all that out. But the one that has me excited, of course, is the Lock and Key / Joe Hill bundle. Lots of great, absurdly cheap comics available there and a fantastic deal. Great talking to you as always. If you want to follow me on social media, just check out the description for this episode. Got links to all of that, as well as links to ways you can help support this podcast. And I'm not just looking for monetary support either. If you're listening to this on YouTube, I'd be very grateful if you liked, shared, subscribed, and hit the bell for notifications. Or if you're listening on a podcast network or app, please subscribe there, leave me reviews, interact with me any way you like, and have a great day. I'll talk with you soon.